So, you're a Cleveland Browns fan. Just how big of a fan are you? Do you deserve a seat at the Dawgs Table? Well, you're here, aren't you?
The best fans, the most patient fans in the league.
This is the Dawgs Table.
Touchdown, Shabalaba Hub!
If you're obnoxious, opinionated, over the top, and you live for the Browns...
45-40, run, William, run! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
Welcome to your new family, the Dawgs Table, an official Dawgs By Nature podcast on the SB Nation and Vox Media Podcast Network. Let's do this. Welcome to the Dawgs Table. Now your hosts, Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo.
Let's go! Let's go!
What's up, everybody? This is Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo with the Dawgs Table, and we are brought to you by SB Nation and Vox Media. We are part of the Dawgs By Nature Podcast Network, and we are here to talk Browns with you today. What's up, Ryan? How's everything going?
Everything's good, buddy. How about you?
Everything is just great. It's Super Bowl week. But while news is slow coming out of Berea, we do have some interesting things to talk about, and maybe we'll go off subject a little bit. We are a Browns only podcast, but it's a Super Bowl. Maybe we'll talk.
Can you believe it's Super Bowl week already?
We are headed towards free agency, headed towards the draft, and I think what I want to start with today, if I can just switch this little ticker at the bottom there that I forgot to move over. Jedrick Wills is up for his 5th-year option this year. And this was actually brought to my attention. It had completely escaped me. I completely missed this. Jared Mueller posted it to Mueller posted it. I always get his last name wrong. I don't know why. Jared Mueller posted an article today on dogsbynature.com, which you guys should be reading every day. And he made some interesting points. And Jed Wills is up for his 5th-year option. It is a decision that the Cleveland Browns have to make this offseason. And it is going to have long-term ramifications on what our offensive line is going to look like. Now, what makes this interesting is Andrew Berry has shown an unwillingness to, maybe not an unwillingness, he's shown a tendency to not give up on his own draft picks. All right. So not only is this going to be telling as far as how he handles this situation, it's not just any old draft pick. It's his first draft pick. It's his first round draft pick. This is the guy that he drafted to be the cornerstone of the organization that he had every intention of overseeing for years to come. And I want to get your opinions on Jed Wills and whether or not the Browns should pick up his 5th-year option. The amount that was revealed, okay, to preface this, and then I'll have you answer here, is a little over $14 million for a 5th-year option. So for 2024, where do you think of Ryan?
I say move on. The reason I say that is because the play is just not up to par for the position, right? There's glaring effort issues on the field, technique issues. He just looks so disinterested in being on the football field that it really bothers me. And you don't see that very often out of an NFL player. But he's just so lackadaisical, and I want to use the word lazy, but that's not fair because he is an NFL player. But it just looks that way when he plays, and it sucks because you want to hit on that draft pick. You want to know that you have your left tackle for the next 5, 6, 7 years, but it didn't hit. We didn't make it on this one. There's other guys that are doing better, and I just don't think he's anything more than a serviceable left tackle that has effort and consistency issues. And I just don't think you can pay someone that type of money to be your left tackle when you're in a win now mode.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. And it's a big decision. And ultimately, I get what you're saying. And the Browns fan base, I think, is pretty divided on the subject. Some don't believe it's an effort issue, but to me, and I think you would agree, Ryan, and sometimes it looks like he's really not giving it 100% out there. Um, and that's just beyond looking like like you're trying. I mean,
Right.
tuck your shirt in like a professional, for Christ's sake. God, I always say that, and I always feel like an old man saying that, but
Right.
he just looks like he just doesn't care. And then there's instances where it's like he clearly you watch a replay and you're like, he clearly gave up on this play. And then you have the quote unquote film bros on social media that have all these elaborate explanations for why he didn't finish this block or pick up that guy or this or that or the other. I'm not going to pretend to know more about scheme and the intricacies as much as some of the film guys do, the X's and O's guys do.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm still questioning that with what I'm seeing from my own two eyes. This might be a scenario in which it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. What I was kind of wondering, before even bringing up the 5th-year option ordeal and the amount of money it would take and the commitment for another year to give to him, along with the money, is left tackle wasn't his natural position coming out of college. And I think it would have been a bigger question prior to the Conklin extension of could they move him over to the right side? Should they move on from Conklin, give him a shot there? Maybe he's an okay left tackle. I don't think he's terrible. I'm not going to put the bust label on him or anything like that. And he's got the talent, but maybe he would do better on the right side of the line. And but that's kind of out the window now, unless you are going to sit him beside Conklin for depth. And beyond this year, you're committing to giving him $14 million for a year. So it's not like you can use this year as a trial run to see what you can get out of him or see, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a gamble. The other thing too is, I don't know. You wouldn't put the bus label on him, would you?
No, I would just say it's a miss. I mean, he's just not performing to the level that you had hoped. It's either because he's playing left tackle and he should be on the right side of the line or whatever. It's just the return's just not there for where he was drafted. I mean, that guy should be solid. There should be no issues. There should be no questions about the play. He comes to work every day and does his job, and mistakes happen in the NFL. We know that they happen at the highest level. They happen to some of the best players. But I think when you watch him play, you can tell what's a mistake and what's not a mistake. So yeah.
According to PFF last season, he was the 59th ranked overall tackle, meaning left and right.
Yes,
he showed glimpses, but I mean, it's a gamble from a developmental aspect. It's like, how much time do you give the guy? Do you truly believe you're going to extract something bigger and better out of this player production wise? It's really tough.
Well, I mean, experience is the best teacher, right? So he's come into the organization, essentially has been plugged in as the left tackle, starting left tackle since day one. Do we feel like we have seen enough progression from year to year or improvement from year to year to justify $14 million? I haven't.
I don't. That's a lot of money, and we're already in salary cap gymnastics, right? Like,
right.
The solution seems so simple, right? You restructure a couple guys, you create all this cap space, but again, and I feel like a broken record saying this. I've said it on almost every episode. We're kicking the can down the road.
Right.
How many cans are you going to kick down the road?
Right.
Is it worth the gamble? So I think it's really going to come down to some of it could come down to the salary.
Yeah.
But when you look at them picking up their 5th-year options, they picked up Myles Garrett's, they picked up David Njoku's, they picked up Baker Mayfield, and they picked up Denzel Ward. So this is a big decision.
Right.
I think personally they're going to move on from him. I think that the consensus prior to today likely would have been until seeing that contract number, because that number was just revealed. Okay.
Right.
Albert Breer revealed those numbers today, actually, 5:38 p.m. So that this was just, we're recording on Tuesday evening. That was just hours ago. Now, Jeff Lloyd, if you're on social media, you may be familiar with Jeff Lloyd. He is reporting that the Browns do not plan on picking up his 5th-year option. We've had Jeff on the show. He's a good guy. He knows he knows people. We'll just put it that way. But I haven't seen anything else beyond that. But that, I guess, doesn't surprise me after seeing the figures at all.
Right.
So,
yeah, I mean, it is a gamble, because then you're at a place where you are creating another hole for your organization, right? So it's tough. You don't know.
Yeah, and another way you can look at it is kind of like you have to do with quarterbacks too. If you consider him serviceable in low risk, like he has a low floor, meaning like you're going to get a certain minimum amount of production from him and you're comfortable with that. Left tackles aren't cheap.
Right.
So they may think it's worth it. And they may say, we're going to pay you $14+ million for your 5th-year option. You have to earn it if you want anything beyond that.
Right.
So, but I tend to believe that between I would call it disappointing, first 3 years of his career.
Sure. Yeah.
The salary cap implications, things like that, they're probably not going to pick it up. That's just my opinion. All right, moving on to the other side of the ball. Did you catch any of the Pro Bowl games?
I didn't. I just wasn't interested in it this year.
Myles Garrett dislocated his toe. Fortunately, he does not need surgery. That could have been so much worse. I didn't really tune in. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of over the Pro Bowl. The skills challenges, they're kind of fun, but you start throwing in like water balloon tosses, like I'm not.
I have not watched the Pro Bowl in several years.
But I'd be interested to see what our viewers have to say about the Pro Bowl and what they think of it. I think they might as well give up on doing anything for it and just let it be the popularity contest it is and allow it to be an accolade. I think the more that they do the Pro Bowl and keep trying to change it around, the less it's going to mean, if that makes sense.
Right.
I know you have like the all pro teams and things like that. Those are decided much differently than the Pro Bowl rosters. But then you don't have all the alternates and things like that. You just let the fans vote for the Pro Bowl, unleash a list, make it kind of like an all pro list and go from there. That's my opinion. But he did crack a joke on social media today because there's a lot of jokes flying around because Arian Foster appeared to, it was Arian Foster, right? He appeared to suggest that the NFL is scripted. And I think it was very much taken out of context from an interview he did. And I think it was supposed to be an attempt at a joke, but it's been run with. So Myles Garrett posted a photo of him and he was kind of caught in an awkward pose. And he's like me reading the NFL's Pro Bowl script. And I thought it was kind of funny. But, fortunately, he's okay, and it's not an Achilles or an ACL or something like that.
Right.
So, Super Bowl week is a big one. This is the last chance for us to watch professional football until months and months and months from now, which is kind of depressing. So, I think that we would. I think we need to kind of touch on it. It's a place where, as Browns fans, we hope our favorite team is there in the near future, and we can follow along all the festivities and everything like that with some real interest. And it is Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs versus Nick Sirianni. Mount Union alum, which is in my backyard in a stone's throw from where Ryan's at in Canton, Ohio. You know, he's coming from there, so he's making a big time now. And it's interesting because we're seeing Patrick Mahomes. We know what we're going to get out of Mahomes. We're seeing the Kansas City Chiefs offense where we know what we're getting there. The Philadelphia Eagles offense that we're going to be watching is widely viewed as what the Browns are going to try to model their Deshaun Watson offense off of. So, I mean, are you going to be watching the Eagles offense in this game, or are you just going to be watching it as a fan, like a normal Super Bowl game?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, I know it's kind of a cop-out, but that is where I hope that the Browns offense goes to in the future. You know, I hope they're as smooth and efficient as the Eagles offense is. But at the same time, I want to watch it as a fan. I think it's going to be an amazing game. I personally think the Eagles are going to pull it out, but it's you know, a little bit of both. I think I'm going to be doing a little bit of analyzing and fanning at the same time.
I think the biggest difference between the Browns offense and the Eagles offense is a second receiver. They have the A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith tandem, and that's something that I don't think that we have here.
Right. And they also get elite play from their tight end position as well.
They do. And they have Dallas Goedert, and, you know, we have David Njoku, who's up and coming still and had a phenomenal year this past year. But, you know, I would argue we have a stronger run game. Quarterback play is going to be comparable. Jalen Hurts has looked outstanding in that offense. I think, you know, I don't know if I'd call him a system quarterback. He's certainly talented, but I think I did not expect him to have this type of season before the year. I was very critical of his play last year from an arm talent perspective. You know, the passing game flourished in Philadelphia this past year. So that'll be interesting. Little bit of a revenge game for Nick Sirianni. I believe he was fired by Andy Reid at one point. So some fun narratives around there. But I think it's going to be a good game. I don't know if I have a strong opinion one way or another of which way it's going to go. It's probably going to be a close game. I couldn't tell you if it's going to be high scoring, low scoring. The Eagles defense, I think, kind of might give the Eagles an edge, but it is Patrick Mahomes and it is the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So we'll see. Speaking of coaches, we're kind of all over the map. All right. There's not a whole lot going on, but I keep, you know, conjuring up relevant things that I think we can talk about. Andrew Berry sent one of his disciples off to ride off into the sunset with another team in Minnesota. Their GM was under Andrew Berry here in Cleveland. The Browns have placed an emphasis on developing minority front office personnel, things like that. And he's having a lot of success in Minnesota, I would argue, so far. But he got Brian Flores to sign on as defensive coordinator before Brian Flores went and did another interview with the Cardinals for his head coaching gig. So, you know, that is, I think, interesting because the GM's an Andrew Berry disciple, and it was somebody that was a hot name in the Cleveland market.
Yep.
So definitely some movement there, and he won't be in the AFC North anymore. He was with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep. Good for them. That's a good pickup for them.
Yeah. Not a lot to talk about. Anything else in the news or anything you've seen on social media you feel like is worth kind of
You're
discussing?
asking me? No, it's been dead dry out there. It's I mean, other than the Super Bowl and what we've talked about so far, we're kind of.
So, I don't know if your Twitter feed and Facebook feed or whatever you're on is. I know you're on Twitter. I spend most of my time on Twitter. Is littered with certain things. It's like everybody has something to say about a particular narrative every day or every couple of days. There's one particular thing. And, you know, lately what I've been seeing everybody wanting to discuss is the prospect of the Browns going and getting another receiver.
Right.
And there are two aging veterans that are hot commodities as far as the fans are concerned. And why don't we go ahead and kind of dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
So the Browns are going to come up with some cap space.
They will.
Watson will almost surely restructure. Amari Cooper's a restructuring candidate. Myles Garrett's a restructuring candidate. They could, if they're again going to kick the can down the road, they could easily come up with 40 to 60 million in cap space.
For sure.
All right. The Andrew Berry tends to trend towards youth, right? And he tends to trend towards untapped talent, right? Talent that hasn't translated to production that he can get a value on. These two guys are not either of those things. Okay. The two names that are being floated around by Browns fans is the prized picks of free agency is DeAndre Hopkins. And there is a ton of speculation that Keenan Allen's going to be a salary cap casualty in LA for the Chargers. And he's a hot name as well. Give me your opinions on these two guys and what you think they should do, if anything. And then I'll share mine with you.
I mean, if you're asking me who I'd be more interested in, it would probably be Hopkins, just because of the connection with Watson in the past. I think.
So to clarify, maybe neither of them is the answer. That's
right.
That's a perfectly fine answer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously not. It's not my preference to go out and get older receivers, especially over the age of 30.
Dwayne Bowe syndrome.
Right. It just typically doesn't work out for them. But if I was gun to the head, had to pick between the two, it would definitely be Hopkins, just because, like I said, the connection with Watson, but, and I still think he has more in the tank. Keenan Allen, I'm sorry. I mean, you've had a great career. Probably, would he be a Hall of Famer, you think?
No. And I actually think that, if you were to list out every wide receiver one in the NFL, he is at the very bottom of that list, or close to it.
Great career, not interested.
Yeah, well, and he's had a lot of success, and he's got a lot of talent, but he's had some injury issues.
Right.
But you look at some of the other guys that are being floated around that Browns fans would really love to have. I just saw it in the comments. Brandon Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Talented guy. Why is he on 6 teams in 6 years? And he's got his own set of injury issues. Will Fuller, definitely injury issues. D-Hop, out of those 4, if we're looking at just those 4, he's the guy. But I would argue, don't go after either of them, personally. I think that the value you would need to get them at is unrealistic. And that's perfectly fine. You're going to have to pay them a good amount of money. I'm not saying they're not worth the money that they're going to make. I'm saying that I don't know if it's the best thing for this franchise. Yeah,
it's tough, man. I don't know. I can't get on board with any of them other than Hopkins. And that's, like I said, gun to my head. It's not going to hurt the organization. I don't think he's the type of player that's going to hurt anybody. No. So they have to find somebody that can spread the field. Somebody can add some speed and some downfield threat.
Yeah, I think the two biggest questions on the offense out of what we, aside from what we spent time on earlier with Jed Wills and his 5th-year option, is going to be a Kareem Hunt replacement and, somebody else at wide receiver. I don't know if that's going to come through the draft or free agency. And that's something that Dawgs By Nature had an article up on just over the past few days. Are they going to address it in free agency or the draft? It could be both. Maybe it's not splashy at all. Maybe a trade candidate surfaces.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones is sticking to his gun, saying he's happy with the value he got out of Amari Cooper, which I don't really understand, but the Browns do need speed and they do need help there.
Yes.
And I think Donovan Peoples-Jones would thrive as a wide receiver 3.
Yes.
I think he can play wide receiver 2, but he would thrive as a wide receiver 3.
Agreed.
So yeah.
Agreed. If you can have somebody to stretch the field to the point that he can just eat on those intermediate routes, it's money. I mean, he's so good at those drag routes, the slants, the stuff in the middle of the field is where he really makes his money. And if he's got that opportunity to do that, I mean, it would be scary. It really would.
Let's do a live mailbag to kind of close out the show. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show today, I think. But if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live as we're recording this, go ahead and ask a question in the comments and we'll address it. It is there. At least we don't have a ton of pieces to address on offense. The defense is obviously far more of a challenge, I think, or it's going to be more of a challenge. But the offense, it's kind of, we're going into win now mode, and the window, it sounds really cliche, but the window is real open. It's closing. So it's it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, I've also seen some talk, floating around on social media of Paris Campbell from the Colts. I've also seen some talk about Mecole Hardman, possible targets at the wide receiver position.
I love Mecole Hardman on the Browns.
I think, I mean,
give me that special teams ability.
Yeah.
And some of that speed. I love it.
I mean, that's a guy that definitely could plug into what you were hoping Jakeem Grant was going to do for you this year.
Yeah, with, I think, more upside at wide receiver. I think he gives you an edge on special teams. But I don't know if he's as good as Jakeem Grant as a returner, but he's better than anything we've had since Josh Cribbs, really, if you ask me.
Right.
All right. So we have a question in the comments. Would you draft Zach Harrison with the second round pick?
I'm assuming you're asking me because of all the Buckeye stuff behind me, but I would actually say no. And the reason for that is consistency issues. Zach is an athlete. He's large. He has the physical tools and ability to do it. I just don't think he was consistent enough for me at the college level to pick him in the second round. I just think that he came on late, but he's just been too inconsistent. Like I go back to that every time I think of him as a Buckeyes fan and as somebody who's watched him since he was recruited. I felt like his ceiling was much higher, and he hasn't quite lived up to that. He's very good against the run. I see your comment down there. He is good against the run. But you are hoping to put somebody opposite of Myles Garrett that can also get after the quarterback. And I just don't think he does that enough to take enough of the attention from Myles' side of the field. You need somebody over there who's dynamic.
Yeah, that question came from Craig Foster. We have one from Darius Jones. Do you see the Browns making a surprise trade? For example, like trading Newsome for a possible extra second round pick or getting a wide receiver in the trade. All right. Back to social media narratives. The other player that so many, and Darius, for clarification, I'm not suggesting that this is your opinion. I'm just saying I'm going to connect the dots here. A lot of Browns fans are hoping that they can ship Newsome off for somebody like Jerry Jeudy. All right. And I keep seeing this, and there's an infatuation with Jerry Jeudy, and he may be available, and Browns fans are working the math problem backwards. How do we find somebody that would make sense to ship off for Jerry Jeudy and be able to acquire him? The argument for shipping off Newsome is we're strong on the outside. Newsome is disappointed on the inside when it comes to cornerback. We don't really need him on the outside unless somebody gets hurt, which happens. But do we plan for injuries? No. Just like we don't get in the car. We do plan as far as a depth perspective, but for like a good player, like Newsome, I don't think you plan like that. That's like getting in the car, planning on getting into a car accident. That's not why we put the seatbelt on. We put it on just in case. Right. I get the argument for trading Newsome. I just don't see Barry with his unwillingness to give up draft picks, his the obvious potential and talent that Newsome has on a rookie deal for money, in his affinity for depth at the position. To me, it just doesn't add up as something that's realistically going to happen. So to answer your question, Darius, I don't think Newsome's going to be a trade piece.
I wouldn't be surprised to see some type of surprise trade come. I mean, Andrew Berry's going to have to be very active this offseason. He's going to have to really use his brain and really use some gymnastics with the money and some, some deals. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a deal or two happen, but I don't think that the cornerback position is one that they can just shift away the youth from, because they've been struggling for depth at that position for 2 years. They've been struggling with injury issues at that position for 2 years. I mean, you blow on
Denzel Ward.
Denzel Ward, and he falls over and he's out for 2 games. Like, it's just, they need the depth there too much, and he's too much of a young talent to just ship him off like that. Now, somebody like a Greedy Williams, maybe I could see getting moved in some type of deal, but like, again, why do it if you have guys on a young contract? Because it hurts your depth, and your depth has to be there for defense. We've seen that as an issue for the Browns for many years now. Injuries hit them hard for whatever reason it is, and they need depth. But no, I would not be surprised to see something come this offseason.
Something I think that's feeding that narrative is with Jim Schwartz coming in. Everybody's assuming that the focus is going to shift from the defensive backfield to the front of the defense. And while that may be true to an extent, you can't have too many good players, especially on rookie deals.
Right.
I think that while nobody's untouchable, I mean, realistically, who's untouchable on our team at this point? Deshaun Watson, because it's mathematically impossible to trade him, right? Other than that, is anybody truly untouchable?
I mean, you could argue Miles, maybe.
You could argue that for sure. Chubb's touchable. Everybody's touchable for the right number, outside of probably Watson and Miles.
Right.
With that being said, Barry's going to have to really, really fleece somebody, I think, to pull a trigger, which is fine. That happens.
I think you would be more likely to see somebody like John Johnson get shipped out, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, and I think they're going to struggle to trade him if they do trade him, because everybody knows, I think, that the likelihood of him getting a post June 1st designation and getting cut is what's likely to happen. He's going to likely be the Brown salary cap savings move of the offseason. The other salary cap savings are going to come from restructuring. We're not going to be cutting a ton of guys.
Right.
Where the roster is really going to look different, aside from bringing draft picks in and free agents in, is whether or not we're going to re-sign certain veterans. And we'll probably dedicate an episode to going through who is, slated to hit free agency, and maybe do like a stay or go type thing. We can do that in the near future. That'll be a fun episode. But the decisions I don't think are going to be that tough in that area. But yeah, for them to trade somebody like Newsom, it would need to be really, really, really good for them.
And listen, I'm a proponent for spending to win in the NFL. Like I say it all the time, you have to spend to win. And if that deal comes up that it's too good to, refuse,
we already said FM picks, right?
Yeah, do it. I mean, I'm down with it. Like, if it makes your team significantly better, do it. Like, you have to maximize on the young talent that you have right now. You have to maximize on that window that is quote unquote open for them right now. And I'm all for spending. I don't give a crap what happens for the Browns 6 years from now as far as money goes. I want to win. I want to win while we have the talent, because you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years.
All right. On that note, we are going to head to the overtime show. If you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, stick around for just a moment. We are going to be talking a little bit. That is kind of our garage beer segment. We kind of let our hair down. If we had some, we would anyways. And we do more of a casual conversation back and forth with the commenters, and anybody can join the show if they'd like. So Tuesdays at 9, that's what we get into after this portion of the show. We are the Dawgs Table. I'm Craig Fountain here with Ryan Angelo here for Dawgs By Nature. We're part of the SB Nation and Vox Media family. And we will be back next week. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
All right, friends. Updates. Craig, I finally have an update on your jersey that you won. They sent me an email saying that they will be getting a tracking number to me soon. I don't know how soon is soon.
That poor guy doesn't have his jersey yet. Jeez,
no, I know, right? But I told him I'd make it right. I told him I would, if they didn't send him the jersey, I'd send him the cash. So either way, my giveaways are good, I promise. Craig, I'm sorry that you were the one that I've given away a ton of jerseys from that company, and this is the only one I've ever had an issue with. So I apologize, Craig, but we'll get it handled. Do you guys have any other questions or anything else you want to discuss? I will put a link in the comments in case anybody wants to join the show. You can find the link on Facebook or YouTube. And let's see, send. It is in there. It's a StreamYard link. Looks just like that. It's nice and easy. You just click on it and you say, yeah, you can use my camera and microphone, and you can come chat with us if you'd like.
Yep.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for joining the show, CM. Appreciate
Cedric,
you coming
what's going
on,
my man. That's my buddy. It's funny. He uses CM as his like his YouTube name.
Yeah, this is kind of the tough part of the off season too, where like nothing is really happening. So let us know. Justin's here. What's up, Justin? Everybody came in at the right time. There's a link in the comments, you guys, if you want to join the show. We are already in the overtime segment, to where you guys can join the show and talk with us face to face if you'd like, or communicate with us in the comments. Just lost my train of thought. Oh, if there's anything you guys want us specifically to dedicate an episode to or anything like that, we can definitely do that. CM has a question. Is Kareem Hunt going to be here next year? No. I seriously doubt it. And Ryan does not like that. Rich, what's up, buddy? Rich is joining too. Everybody's popping in. All right.
What's up, Rich?
Rich, I'm going to get right back to your question. Kareem Hunt. Listen, I would love to have Kareem back at the right number. And there is a small chance that this could be the perfect storm. The running back depth and the amount of running backs, the running back depth in the draft is awesome, right? Like you're going to be able to get solid guys on day 3 of the draft just because their value is lower every year. The supply is high. The demand is But not only that, you're going to have so many running backs hitting the open market, including Kareem Hunt. Some of these guys aren't going to be picked up right away. They're going to be getting on teams due to injuries, things like that.
Gary.
So here's where I was going with that, and then we can move on to the other questions. Kareem Hunt could find himself in a situation where he's not going to get paid, and maybe it's in his best interest to return to Cleveland. I don't know.
I agree with that.
I still don't think it's going to happen, but that would be how it would happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, there would not be a market that he would be expecting for his services, and that would essentially make him come back as on like a team-friendly deal.
Gary, thanks for joining the show. I see you down there. We'll get to your question. Rich is asking, will Lamar be leaving the AFC North? Where to? ATL, back to Baltimore? Listen, they're $100 million away right now. And I think that he's going to be back to Baltimore. I don't know if it's going to be. I think this is going to get messy. I think it's going to come via the franchise tag, and then we're going to have to see how he responds to it. Personally, that's me. He is no doubt looking at Watson's contract saying, I want that probably a little bit more. Deshaun Watson's not an MVP. I'm an MVP. You know, the things he's supposed to say as a negotiator, working on his big contract. You know, I think that is what's going to happen. Ryan, thoughts?
I don't know. I had that risky prediction that I think he's going to move. He's going to go somewhere else. I think he and the organization is too far apart, and I don't think the Ravens organization is an organization that's going to be bullied. But it's very possible that they could franchise tag him, and then we see how he responds to that. That's probably the most likely of outcomes. But I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see him on another team. I really wouldn't. I think that they're very close to burning that bridge. There has not been any good vibes around that conversation for quite some time.
All right. Gary asks, seen a lot of the so-called experts predicting us going after Alan Lazard. Would you boys like that move? Not me. All right. So earlier in the show, we talked a little bit about wide receivers, right? The holy grail targets for Browns fans are guys like D-Hop, assuming he's available. Keenan Allen was the other guy we talked about, who could very well be available. Brandon Cooks, things like that. I don't know about Alan Lazard specifically, but this is the type of move that I would expect them to make, right? Like, he's not going to be a clear number one. He could be a solid wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. This just seems like right up Andrew Berry's alley. Not saying it's Lazard. Could be like the other guy we talked about earlier. Could be McCole Hardman. I don't see us adding a superstar, right? Amari Cooper is going to be the best wide receiver on this team. That's my opinion. So we'll see what happens. I think that, it's a stretch to think that we're going to end up with Hopkins, but I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah. No, it's going to be somebody that fits Barry's MO. It'll be a free agent that's a younger guy who, like an Alan Lazard or, Miko Hardman, somebody like that who's, somewhat underperformed but has flashed, or it could be a trade of some sort. So, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be anybody that's going to have a bigger name than Amari Cooper catching the ball, other than possibly Hopkins. But I mean, I think that would have to be a home run deal for them. He would have to take a team friendly deal. They would have to get a great deal with the Cardinals. Like, there's a lot of things you would have to align for that to happen, in my opinion. But yeah.
CM, are you talking about Lamar? Let me know if you're talking about Lamar here.
I think he's talking about Hunt.
Hunt?
He might be talking about Hunt.
Oh, where would you hate to see him go? I mean, in the AFC North.
Yeah.
Darius, am I in the minority that the AFC North next season will be the best division next season with Watson for a full season, Burrow, Jackson, and Pickett? If Jackson returns, that definitely adds some intrigue to the competitiveness of the AFC North. I think the top 2 quarterbacks in the AFC North will be Joe Burrow, number 1, Deshaun Watson, number 2. Pickett, I mean, he could make strides, but, I don't know. But here's the thing with the Ravens and the Steelers, right? They always find a way to be competitive, and they're always in it, at least up until the end.
Yep. Great coaching.
All right. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. And there's some really tough divisions out there. When you look at the AFC East and, the Jets are a quarterback away. They get the right quarterback. They're a quarterback away, in my opinion. Miami, if Tua can stay healthy or they add somebody else down there, that could be a really dangerous division. The AFC South and the AFC West. I think the AFC West was a little bit overblown as far as competitiveness, but you have, potentially, AFC, it could change implications in the AFC to see a switch in quarterback from Derek Carr to somebody else in Las Vegas. And Russell Wilson, I mean, he might be cringy and a goofball, and, this season didn't do anything for his image, and, he was a serious letdown, but he was playing with that same injury that Baker Mayfield had, if I understand correctly. He wasn't completely healthy either. Sean Payton's going to go in there and tighten things up. I think that could be a really competitive division. So I don't know. I think it depends on, if Jackson comes back and Pickett plays pretty well, is the 4th best quarterback in the division, then it could be pretty competitive.
I think the NFC East would be an interesting one too, as well. I mean, you've got the Eagles and Cowboys. They're both strong teams. The Eagles aren't going anywhere anytime soon. You've got the Giants, who surprised a lot of people this year, and it seems like they're on the upswing. They have some really good pieces on that team. And then the outlier in that one is the Commanders. I don't think the Commanders are a bad football team.
No.
I think they have the pieces to compete. They need a quarterback. And if you get lucky and you that quarterback, it can take a lot of those mid-tier teams to the next level. And that division could be really dangerous if they could get a quarterback in Washington.
So, and that's going to be kind of the highlight of the offseason, I think, is the quarterback carousel. And CM, if you're saying either guy, to answer your question, where would I hate to see Lamar go? Anywhere in the AFC. at this point.
Right.
He could change the tide for a lot of teams. Gary says Lamar to the Jets. All right. So Rich brings up a point here, and then Gary has a comment about it. The Pro Bowl sucks, especially with Tyler Huntley getting in so ridiculous. I agree with this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna disagree with Gary kind of. So Gary says, I agree Brissett was better than him. I agree that Brissett was better than Huntley. I disagree with the implication that Brissett should have been chosen over him. I still think that there were other quarterbacks that should have gotten in ahead of Brissett, Huntley, or Watson for that matter. Herbert didn't make it, right? I would put Herbert ahead of all three of those guys. I don't think Herbert made it. If the Browns want to be legit contenders, they must beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh and the Ravens in Baltimore. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the only guy that we've had that's been able to go toe to toe with Baltimore is Baker. We've seen some shootouts, some entertaining games, but we really gotta figure out how to beat them on the road. Cincinnati, I think, is going to be dangerous for us when you look at the landscape of the AFC North for the next however long Burrow's there. I mean, I think it's going to take a lot to overcome that mess. One guy I wouldn't mind. Okay, that leads me to this. Just kind of came to mind, something I've been thinking about. If T. Higgins is let go by the Bengals, you break the effing bank for that
dude.
guy.
I am backing up a Brinks truck times 4 for that kid.
Yes. And he is rumored to be wanting a fat paycheck. And I say, tell the man to name his price and bring him on board. There's not a whole lot of receivers I'm interested in breaking the bank for. That is a rising star. And if Chase wasn't there, he would be hands down, in my opinion, a very good wide receiver one. I think pairing a guy like him with Amari Cooper and DPJ and Njoku would be something to watch. But he's got youth. He hasn't reached his peak yet. He is durable. He is productive. Like, the guy's just got so much potential. I would love that. I think the Bengals would be absolutely stupid to let him go.
That's a guy that just, I think without him on that offense, their offense isn't the same. Like, I know he's not Jamar Chase. I know but I just think he brings so much to the table with the route running and taking some of the attention away from Chase that, like, I think it would be absolutely insane to let him go.
So I'm actually going to look this up because that's a great question.
While you're looking that up, I got something that we haven't talked about that I've just saw online. So there's some reports floating around now that it sounds like that the Raiders and Saints have agreed to trade compensation for Derek Carr.
Raiders and Saints.
Yeah. So it sounds like they had to agree on the trade in order to talk to Derek.
Sure, because he's got the no trade clause.
Right. So it sounds like the trade has been agreed to. Whether or not he agrees to go to New Orleans, that's yet to be seen, or if they can fix a deal. But that's been floating around here in the last couple hours. So
it's a great move for Derek, in my opinion.
I think so too.
All right. T. Higgins is on the 4th year of his rookie deal in 2023. He has a dead cap figure of less than $1 million. And he is going to be a 5th year option candidate. But here's the thing, unless they plan on playing the franchise tag game with him or, something like that, chances are they could try to get some compensation for him. So yeah, that's going to be a situation to watch, and maybe that doesn't come to fruition this year, but is Michael Thomas too busted to kick the tires on? Probably. Yes. That's a vet minimum. His expectations need to be managed. I don't think you could manage Browns fan expectations.
He just can't stay on the field,
especially as he's a Buckeye, right? So, You know, I don't know. But yeah. And T. Higgins, 24 years old. Just turned 24. So yeah, you guys accidentally coaxed my holy grail guy out of me at the wide receiver position. But the likelihood of that happening for them to trade him within the AFC North or to allow that to happen, it's just that's a pipe dream, guys. So
yeah, very
I'm just dreaming. But he'll be an unrestricted free agent in 2024.
I do anticipate seeing another wide receiver added to this team. I mean, I think they'd be stupid not to. Just no matter who it is.
All right. Any more questions?
I hope they go for it this offseason, though. I really do.
What's that?
I hope they go for it this offseason. I hope he maximizes what he can. He gets the cap space that he can. I mean, if you can free up $60 million in cap space, that's a lot of cap space. That can address several holes for you very easily.
Technically, they can free up to $100 million in contracts space with restructures. That's not realistic that they would do that.
Right.
I think consensus opinion on how many cans are going to kick down the road would be 40 to 60 million. But Gary, is Jakeem Grant still with us this year? Yeah, actually, he signed a 3-year deal, but he's 31 going on 32, coming off of an Achilles and making good money with limited ramifications for cutting him.
You're right.
So I don't expect Jakeem Grant to be back with us. I would be surprised. They brought him in primarily for special teams, and maybe they roll the dice, but to be in your 30s and come back from an Achilles, and
they could restructure him.
Well,
they can rework that deal after an injury.
So I actually did a write-up on this, but I don't remember offhand. So let me pull up his deal. All right. So he signed a 3-year, $10 million deal in 2023. He has a $3.5 million cap hit with a $1.3 million dead cap. So in 20
money.
What's that?
It's not a lot of money.
It's not a ton of money. He is going on 31 years old. So it's really going to come down to do they foresee them getting a return on their investment with him, and probably how his rehab's coming. Some guys come back just fine from it.
Right.
But you factor in the age and the wear and tear. He's a 7-year vet. It gets a little dicey there.
Yeah.
Darius wants to know. Go ahead, Ryan.
It sucks because he would have been really good here. I think.
Oh, I know. We never even got to really see it.
He just came off a really great year, and I really want to see him play.
With the second round pick, do you see the Browns trading down a few spots or staying with the pick and taking the best player available? That's going to be a game time decision, I think, but I would expect them to stay put or trade up a little bit, in my opinion. If Andrew Berry sees the right guy falling to him, I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to move up a little bit, especially being without first round picks for a while. That's a possibility. Really, it's all a possibility. I don't know. They could see a guy that they feel like they could get 10 spots down, 20 spots down.
Is it crazy for me to feel like they could use that pick in a trade? Like trade away?
No, at this point, they've committed to the F them picks strategy.
I mean, they're in that win now mode. So I could see them using that pick to address a need with a younger player.
I also feel like this front office is overconfident in their ability to make selections in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. So that could play into it.
I mean,
Gary,
they can't. Go ahead. Sorry, I was just gonna say they cannot expect 8 or however many draft picks they have that are going to come in and fill these roles. They're going to have to bring people in from other avenues. So it wouldn't shock me to see him trade that pick for somebody to fill a need.
So Miles dislocated his toe. Surgery is not needed, so it should be basically a non-issue, unless he gets like a Joe Juravicious MRSA infection or something. Knock on wood. Will JOK step it up this year? Will he float between linebacker and defensive back? I don't really see them committing too much to him in coverage. But I think that he will step it up, and I think that he's going to thrive with Jim Schwartz in his current position.
Yeah, I think Jim Schwartz is going to have him loose.
And he had some guys like him flying around last year. So, yeah. All right. We got another minute or two for questions if you guys have any. If not, we're going to close out the show. Maybe next week we'll do the players that are slated to hit free agency. I feel like it would be a good time to do it. Free agency is going to hit before the draft, obviously, so we have plenty of time to do draft coverage. I didn't really see anything with the Senior Bowl that really there's not a ton to talk about. I'm sure we'll get into risers and fallers with the combine and all the pro days and things like that. I still have yet to figure out what Always Positive Jay is betting me about Smith and Jigba going in the top 10. But oh man, I wish he was watching. Would you like a Fletcher Cox to Cleveland since Schwartz is here? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I would.
He was a Pro Bowler for him.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm going to throw out a term that on social media has just kind of overplayed for me. So it kind of stings coming out when I say it, but it's what people know as far as what I'm trying to say here. The guardrails, right? Guardrails. I hate that term, but the guardrails are, when you hear that term, that is the general confines or things you're targeting in free agency and the draft and tendencies with your front office and stuff. And one of the guardrails is definitely youth, especially in the draft, but still in free agency. So, guys like Fletcher Cox, they're going to have to step outside those limitations that they've imposed on themselves over the past few years. And they're going to have to go with some aging vets, I think. And some of that might happen into the season. Don't be surprised to see them follow that Eagles blueprint where they're adding 36-year-old defensive tackles in the middle of the season if they're close to making a run, and those are the guys that don't want to sign with just anybody. You had Ndamukong Suh saying, I wasn't just going to sign with anybody. And the Eagles, they weren't ready to pull the trigger on that until they knew that they were making a run. You might see some stuff like that with Cleveland. So it's hard to tell. How old is Fletcher Cox?
I'm going to guess 33, 34, maybe.
32 and change.
That's close.
In the league 11 years. And he's got one year left on his Philadelphia Eagles deal. Final score for Super Bowl and MVP. I was so scared somebody was going to ask this. My gut is telling me two completely different things. And, it can't end in a tie. But one thing is telling me it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. The other thing is on the other side of me is this Eagles defense is nuts.
It's nuts, dude.
It's nuts. So I think that this game comes down to the Eagles are going to contain the Chiefs to a certain point. And I do think both sides are going to score, but can the Chiefs defense keep up? Can they make some stops? So I don't know if I have a final score prediction, but for me, something's just telling me it's Eagles and MVP AJ Brown.
Ooh. I got
I still have a little bit of leftover disdain for Jalen Hurts. So,
I
I don't know. Maybe it's Jalen Hurts for MVP. I don't know.
Yeah, that's who I'm going with. I don't have a final score. I suck at that. But I think the Eagles take this. I think their defense is the difference. I just think that they are too fast and too physical. I think that Jalen Hurts wins the MVP. I think that Philly really shows out in this one. I'm not predicting a blowout or anything like that. I'm sure that the Chiefs will score, but people are sleeping on that defense in Philly.
I'm generally, when it comes to predictions, kind of like an under guy where I'll take lower scores, especially in the playoffs. But I'm feeling like a 38-31, 37-34. I think it's going to be a field goal or better game. I don't think it's going to come within 3 points, but
I don't think AJ Brown has scored a touchdown in the playoffs yet, has he?
not yet. That's law of averages. It's coming. It's coming. He's got to average all that out.
Yeah.
But again, Andy Reid has been here before, so
True.
I don't know. We'll see. All right, that is it for today. I'm Craig. I'm here with Ryan Angelo. We are at the Dawgs Table. Tune in next week at 9 p.m. and we'll do our Dawgs by Nature episode, and then we'll do the overtime show just like we did tonight. What'd you say, Ryan?
We'll talk some free agents next week.
We'll talk some free agents. Surely we'll have some thoughts on the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll choose our favorite Super Bowl commercial, Ryan. So have one ready for that. And then we'll get into the Browns impending free agents. We'll do a stay or go type thing. Thanks for tuning in. This is Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo with the Dawgs Table. We are part of the Dawgs by Nature podcast network, brought to you by SB Nation of Vox Media. And until next time, go Browns.
Go Browns. Love you guys.